Well, hello there. So nice to see you all. We're on our week 3 assignment. Crazy, huh? So last time we were together, we were talking about beat and we were listening to music and we were tapping our toes or clapping along with the beats. We were making our own beats. These are different things that we were doing. Well, now we're going to start talking about, what are those things that we're tapping our foot to? What are those things that we're clapping? And so we've already sort of learned about rhythms in the past, but now we're going to get real nitty gritty and start learning very specific things about uh, the notes and the beats that we've been counting and clapping. So first here on our screen, we're talking about note values. We know the word value in like math. You might say, when you're adding something or dividing something, what's the value that you get? Value just means like how big or how small. And when we talk about beats, when we talk about rhythms and notes, there are small ones and there are large ones, just like in math and numbers, right? So here's just a nice little chart that I found, and it sort of makes this. Sometimes they call it the note pyramid, and it has all the different types of notes that you can have here. Well, most of them. There's still some others, but and it sort of shows how they're related to each other. So the top one is a whole note, and a whole note, if you wanted to, you could sort of break it in half and make it turn into two half notes. That's what they're called, half notes. You have a whole note, which is like a whole thing, a whole chunk, and then you cut it in half and you get two half notes. Crazy, huh? And you cut those in half. Well, what happens when you cut a half in half? Well, you get quarters. So then you have 4 quarter notes, right? And then if you can break each of those quarter notes in half, then you're going to get, well, what's half of a quarter? Math whizzes out there. Well, that's an eighth. So these are called eighth notes. And so this whole row right here is going to be your eighth notes. And then even further, if you cut 1/8 in half, well, then you're going to have sixteenths, 1/16. So these are all 16th notes. And the thing is if you think of the number 1/2, the fraction, the bottom number is a 2. So here, how many of them are there? Well, there are 2. So 1/2, as a fraction, the bottom number is a 2. There are 2 of them. 1/4, the bottom number in the fraction 1/4, it's 4. So look at, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. And an eighth note, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And 16th note, well, you can imagine there's 16 there. I just don't want to count them all. So that's sort of one of the ways that we can break down. You can sort of mentally think about breaking down these notes. Not only are we learning their names, but we're also learning how they're related to each other. So we're talking about tempo, we're talking about time, right? So if we're doing a quarter note, well, a half note is the same time or the same length as 2 quarter notes. If you think about it watching TV, there, you know that some programs are a half hour long and some programs are an hour long. You know that it takes 2 half-hour programs will be the same length as 1 hour-long program, okay? So we can think of it in terms of time as well. Okay, so if we go down here, it sort of talks about how many beats each type of note has. So in general, a whole note gets 4 beats. Right here, this top thing, a whole note is 4 beats. 4 beats. And then a half note, and look at this, it's the same thing. 2 beats. It's the same thing, remember, it has the 1/2. It changes up a little bit here. A quarter note is 1 beat. So when we were actually tapping our toes in last week's assignment to beat it, or that march or whatever, tapping our toes, we were tapping our toes like this. Each of these taps is 1 quarter note. Quarter notes are the foundation of the beats that we listen to. So quarter notes are really, really important. That's why in Mr. Cobb's lesson, he always does quarter notes in there. So it's ta, 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 ta. So we have quarter notes right there. And then eighth notes are a half a beat. And then 16th notes are a quarter of a beat. So this is a little chart that you have there. Cool. And there are some other dotted rules we're not really going to worry about here. There's one thing to know. There's a couple ways to write eighth notes and 16th notes. We're also not going to worry about that. It's an important thing to know eventually, but not for right now. Okay, so here's just another way to look at it. Okay, so there's different note names So we have a whole note is what we call it. It looks like this, and it's worth 4 beats. A half note. There's also British names. We don't really, for some reason, we don't use the British names, even though that we speak English. I don't know. We don't really use them though. A half note looks like this, and it's worth 2 beats. A quarter note looks like this, is worth 1 beat. An eighth note looks like this, is a half of a beat. Right? You see how this works? 16th note looks like this. This is a single 16th note. You see how, so this is where we get to how they look different. If there's a singular eighth note, it has a little, they call these little flags coming off here. If it's a singular 16th note, it has 2 flags coming off. That's how we tell the difference. But when we start putting them together in pairs, they start looking like this. So whenever you have 2 eighth notes, we have this bar that goes across the top. Or when you have a certain number of 16th notes, you put a double bar across the top. So the bar is sort of like stretching out the flag and connecting the 2 stems there. And then you have 2 flags, so you have 2 bars. So it's just kind of a different way of writing it. But a singular eighth note looks like that, and a singular 16th note looks like that. But once again, if they're paired up or grouped up, then they have the bar across the top, like you see in this part. Okay, so this is kind of leading us to having some kind of math. It's not really hard math. It's just kind of counting. And whenever you're learning music, one of the most important things that you learn how to do is to count music. We all know how to tap our toes to the beat. We've done that before. But now, as we tap our toe, can we put numbers there? Can we count? And so that's one of the things we're going to be learning in today's assignment. So down here, I have, this is an example of music, and it has some things that are laid out. We know that this is the treble clef. Most of us have already discussed a treble clef. We know what that is. Sometimes called the G clef, because this little circle bit circles this line, which is the G line. In fact, all of these notes are Gs, just to think about. So music is broken up into things called measures. And so you can see there's a measure 1 and a measure 2. It could continue on. You could have hundreds of measures, hundreds and hundreds of measures if you wanted to, depending on how long the song is, right? The thing that divides the measures is this vertical line here called a bar. In today's assignment, you are going to be drawing bars. I'm going to have music already there, and you're just going to draw vertical lines on your assignment, and you'll be adding in the bars. Okay? And the bars just help separate measures. So we have measure 1, measure 2, and then you might be wondering, well, how do I know where to draw the bar? Can I draw it wherever I want? Well, no, you can't. You have to learn the rules, and that's where counting comes in. So right here we have what's called the time signature. The time signature basically is the code, secret, top secret, top secret code. It's the top secret code that's not really secret. Most people know. Well, people who are musicians know what it means. It tells you where the measures are and where to draw the bar lines. Okay, so how do we? If you look at it really closely, it looks like a 4 on top of a 4 right there. This is called 4/4 time. You might think, oh, 4/4 time. That makes sense because there's 2 4s. 4/4 time is what it's called. So let's look at 4/4 time. So 4/4 time, the top number tells you how many beats are in a measure, and that is the key. How many beats are there in a measure? Well, this says there are 4. The top number is 4. Therefore, there are 4 beats in the measure. If the top number was a 3, how many beats would there be in a measure? 3, yes, 3 beats in a measure. Crazy, huh? The bottom number just tells you what type of note gets the beat. We will always have a 4 in the bottom. That means the quarter note has the beat. It does change. The more advanced music has different numbers in the bottom. But for everything that we're going to do, there'll be a 4 in the bottom, and that just means quarter note gets the beat. So this says there are 4 beats in a measure. So as we go up here, we look, we know that, hey, here's 4 quarter notes right here. 1, 2, 3, 4. And up here, it shows us that a quarter note gets 1 beat. Oh, so we're going to be counting by ones. So there are 4 beats in a measure. We're counting by ones because these are all quarter notes. So we count 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, there's been 4 beats. Boom, we draw our bar in. Done. We got our first measure in. And then 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, boom, we have another bar right there. You can see it's drawn in. So for every 4 beats, you're going to be drawing a measure. Now, are you only going to see quarter notes? No, you're not. There's also going to be half notes and eighth notes. So be careful because it's not just quarter notes. So as you are doing your assignment today, you're going to see half notes, you're going to see quarter notes, eighth notes, and remember you have to see how many beats are they worth, right? So if you see a half note, it's going to be 1, 2, and then let's see you see 2 quarters. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's just a different way of counting. So for each thing that you see, you're going to be counting differently. Okay, so I think that's it for my notes. Okay, so let's actually take a look at your assignment real quick. This is your assignment. I'm hoping this is going to work. It's a Google drawing thing. Instead of it being a document or a form, it's going to be a draw. So when you see this, you are now going to be able to draw on this image. And you can see we have music. This top one is 4/4 time. That means that there are 4 beats in a measure. So you're going to be counting to fours, counting to fours. This one is in 3/4 time. 3 is on top. That's different. That means we're going to be counting to 3 and then putting a bar line. Okay. Now, first to draw, I recommend this is right here is where you're going to change it. It's from select line to go down to scribble. So now your cursor is just a scribble and you can draw however you want. See, I'm drawing just like that. Just like that. I can draw lines. I'm going to undo those. Okay, so you're going to count. So you're going to count 1, 1.5, 2, 3, 4. Oh, there's the spot where I draw my first line. Okay, so as you go through, you're going to be counting groups of 4 on the top line, and on the bottom line, you're going to be counting groups of 3. Okay, that's your assignment. All told, you're just going to be drawing lines. That's your whole assignment, but you got to draw the lines in the right place. That's the key. Okay, we're counting to 4, we're counting to 3, we're learning the values of each note. Okay, that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for being with us today. I hope you have a great week. I'll see you later. Bye.